Well, a grand jury is composed of 12 men or women who are impaneled and authorized to investigate crime and investigate public officials for any failure to perform their duties. When an appropriate request is made, the judge to whom it is made issues an order directing the district court clerk and the sheriff to draw the names from the jury wheel and issue the summonses for the impaneling of the grand jury.
Mr. Smith,
yes,
you look like an experienced hand.
Oh, yes.
How many names do you expect there are in that jury wheel?
Well, there's around 90,000.
How often do you put new names in there?
Each year.
Each year. Where do you get the names?
From the tax rolls.
Of the Oklahoma County?
That's right.
I understand that you can't get in there by yourself.
No, sir.
Who else has to be here?
The sheriff.
And together you open the locks on there in a courtroom in the presence of the judge. And how many do you select out for?
About 325
and
each term.
Is it your duty to notify those people?
Yes.
How do you do that?
By mail, registered mail.
Well, the usual qualifications must exist. That is, you must be a citizen and so forth. And doctors and lawyers and teachers and people of that nature are automatically excused.
Judge Wallace, do you aid the grand jury in its investigation?
No, that's the job of the county attorney. The jury is instructed by the court, by the judge, as to the nature of their functions and how they're to perform them and the scope of their duties. And then they are impaneled and set out upon their deliberations.
The first thing that they are required to do by statute is make an inspection of all the jails in the county. County attorney acts as an aid to the probe or whatever it is that the grand jury wants to do. In other words, the grand jury, you might say, has all-inclusive powers as regards crimes committed within the county. If they have anything that they want investigated and they make a request of me to do so, then I am required to make the investigation, call in witnesses, interrogate the witnesses for them, and do anything actually that they want me to now. You understand it is absolutely secret. There are no court reporters there. There's no written record of what transpires in the grand jury room. There are not supposed to be any notes taken or anything like that. And then the grand jury, of course, deliberates outside of my presence. There can be no one in the grand jury room except the members of the panel itself.
Well, we can make them testify before a grand jury because we're not up against the situation that Congress has been up against on the plea of the Fifth Amendment. If a man comes in and claims his constitutional rights not to testify, if we feel that his testimony is valuable enough that we've got to let him off in order to get the evidence against somebody more guilty, well, we can take him before the district judge, and the district judge can grant him immunity.
Say I had some information I wanted to get. Who would I see?
County attorney, if he's disposed to cooperate with you. If it's something that you're doubtful about the attitude of the county attorney, go to the foreman of the grand jury.
When they return the indictments, it's your duty to serve the warrants for arrest, isn't it?
That's right.
And how do you go about that?
Well, as a rule, by the time the indictment is cleared through the court clerk's office and we receive the warrant, the television and newspaper people have published it until the ones indicted know about it same as we do. Ordinarily, they have their attorney in on the way down here to make bond by the time we get the warrant.
People think that when a fellow's indicted by a grand jury that is evidence in itself of guilt. Actually, an indictment by a grand jury is a charge by the grand jury that the grand jury believes that an offense has been committed. But the person against whom the indictment is made is still entitled to have a jury trial and have a jury of his peers of 12 men and women determine the guilt in an actual trial. The mere indictment is not a charge of guilty or anything else.
Judge Wallace, when is the grand jury's work finished?
The grand jury makes that determination themselves, and when they've completed their work, they make what's known as a final written report, and it's submitted to the judge, the court, and then they're dismissed or discharged. Well, it's the finest institution that we have whereby public officials can be investigated and their activities looked into.
Well, there's always that stigma that's attached to whether a charge comes by indictment by grand jury or whether it comes by information and belief directly from this office. You've always got that stigma attached to you at one time or another having been charged or indicted with such and such, even though it develops that a jury brings in a not guilty plea. You're correct in a certain sense.
Has a grand jury ever taken advantage of it to smear somebody?
I think that in situations, I couldn't describe any specifically, but I see where it could be done.
I think it's a valuable institution and should be used in Oklahoma more than it has been in past years. For the past 10 years, we've been using it a great deal more than we did before that. They've got to be cooperative, and they've got to be men who are willing to indict somebody they know if the evidence justifies it.
Well, I think they're very good. I think they satisfy the average person that we have a grand jury, and they can bring the things before them that they couldn't bring otherwise, or they feel they couldn't. They could, but they feel they can't. It gives everybody that's mad at everybody else a chance to come in and say what they think about it.
I can say this, that I can't conceive of any plan that wouldn't give a representation to each of the 77 counties.
Very definitely. However, I think that there is a lot of good merit to the argument that with any kind of reapportionment plan that the smaller counties should be guaranteed one representative.
Well, I certainly think that the constitutional provision should not be ignored. Now, if it's bad, it ought to be promptly replaced. If it's good, it ought to be utilized. If it's a situation that would require us to do something that would be unfair, we'll say, to the more sparsely populated areas of Oklahoma, then some different kind of constitutional amendment ought to be made workable. But I don't think it's right for us to ignore year after year a mandatory provision of our Constitution.
Reapportionment is a thing I think will have to come from the people by an initiative petition.
Stirling, now that you are officially city manager, what do you plan to do first things?
Well, I have these three things in mind. First, I'm going to work with the city manager and his department heads in setting up the budget that's going to be what I'm going to have to live with, and I'm going to get as familiar as I can with the problems of the city in that way between now and June 1st. Second, I'm going around this city and drop in on people unannounced and talk with housewives, talk with people that run little shops and stores. I believe there's a good feeling in this city now, and I want to talk with them about their feeling about city government and let them feel that they've at least talked with me now before I have actually taken the job on June 1st. And third, I'm going to find every place where a city employee is employed, such as the garage, for instance, the filtration plant, the fire stations, the police station. And I'm going to talk with city employees, because later after June 1st, when I would call on them, I'd be in the position of being city manager talking with them. Now I want to talk as a friend, see what their conditions are and what their problems are, and I think I'll be better equipped on June 1st to take over my duties.
You're not going to start right out behind the desk, then?
No, sir, I'm not. I definitely am not, and some people have talked about what are you going to do about city employees. You've got any plans for hiring, firing? I certainly am not going to be a hatchet man. I'm going to give everybody a fair break and look into the situation before I take any action at all.
Right. You're going to be very busy, I can tell that.
They tell me it's quite a job.
We certainly wish you the best of luck, Mr. Stirling.
Thank you, Ralph, very much.